everybody, welcome to Wire Digitally with me Shravani. As we have gone through the overview of soft skills in the last session, we all now know that the employer's first priority while hiring an employee is communication skills. So, our today's session is all about effective communication skills and how to improve communication skills. So, let's see the agenda for today's session. Understanding communication, communication model, communication barriers, types of communication, tips for effective communication. All right. This topic is very interesting and one of my favorite topics which I genuinely enjoy teaching. So let's quickly jump into the topic. So let us understand what communication is all about. So let's see the definition of communication first. The imparting or exchanging of information by speaking, writing, or using some other medium. Communication is the transmission of an idea or feeling so that the source of information and destination share same understanding. So it is all about exchange of information, guys. So whatever the source of information, wherever the source of information starts, whatever they think of, it can be a message or it can be a speech, whatever they think of, and how the receiver receives the information, that is all about communication. So let's also try and simplify the process of communication for you. Communication is a process by which information is exchanged between individuals through a common system of symbols, signs, or behavior. Communication is not a mysterious process, guys. It takes place when the ideas from your mind are transferred to another's and arrive intact, complete, and coherent. So, we cannot become a leader without being a great communicator. Training we take in schools and colleges are about grammar, vocabulary, syntax, etc. Everybody will have a common and compulsory language in school or college, that is English. So, whatever we learn in that subject is all about grammar, vocabulary, syntax, etc. and etc. But these are not just enough to fit in this competitive world. You need efficient communication skills, and also this will help you for your professional success at all levels in the organization. So, let's first understand the process and model of communication, which is very important as it is a basic step of whole soft skills world. This is one of the oldest, simplest, and the most effective model. This model is called Shannon-Weaver model of communication. This model is also considered as the mother of models, and this was developed way back in 1949. This model was designed to understand the process of effective communication between the sender and the receiver. If you observe the picture on the screen, there are various components involved in this process other than sender and receiver. Now, let us go through each and every component and understand each and every component. First, who is sender? The person who sends a message or information for communication is called sender. And encoding. Encoding is a process like whatever the sender is having thought over the message, the sender puts his thoughts into words or any other symbolic form or speech. This process is called encoding. And channel. Channel is the medium chosen to send the message. And decoding. Decoding means the receiver receives the message through decoding process. By receiving and interpreting the message, the end person who receives information from sender is called receiver. Next, feedback. The response given by the receiver to the sender after the message has been received is termed as feedback. Giving of feedback indicates the completion of successful communication process. And you can also observe noise above the channel in the picture. Noise can be described as any distortion or barrier preventing reception of the message as intended by the sender. This may be external noise like loud, unwanted sounds or lack of visual clarity, etc. It can also be internal noise like psychological status, emotional well-being, and psychological physiological status. And it can also be environmental noise like culture, availability of time, etc. Let's take Amazon as an example. Nowadays, we place all orders online. Once you place your order, you will receive an order confirmation email or message. Here, the actual source of email or message would be Amazon, and the destination of information would be you, the customer. Here, the information about the order is transferred from Amazon to you using the email as a channel, and the email was received by you successfully because there was no noise or barrier in between the transfer of information. Now, let's see how to plan a message for the process of communication. You should always plan on what you speak or what you are going to say about. So, planning your message is really, really important. First step for planning your message is understand your objective. Like, why are you going to communicate? Why are you communicating with the receiver? Or what is the actual purpose of your communication? That you have to understand your objective. You also have to understand your audience. Like, with whom are you going to communicate and why do they need to know? Right? And plan what you want to say and how you'll send the message. You always have to plan your message properly. What are you going to say, and then how are you going to send the message? Is it a call? Is it a message? Or is it an email? It can be anything. You'll always have to plan how you're going to send them the message. And anticipate the other person's reaction to your message. You always have to imagine how the other person is going to respond for your speech or for your message. That is very important. Review your style. Avoid jargon or slang. Check your grammar and punctuation. Every individual have their own style of communication, right? So you always have to review whether your style is going to meet the receiver's expectations or not. And you always have to avoid jargon or slang. We'll all have our own slang, right? But we should also know where the receiver is from and whether the receiver can understand our slang or not. That you always have to check on. And if you're going to send a written message or an email, you always have to check your grammar and punctuation. That is really important. And familiarize yourself with your company's writing policies or style guides. So every company will have their own code of ethics, own code. You know, it's very important for you to understand and get yourself familiarized about your company's writing policies. If they have any guidelines, you always have to know them very well before sending any messages to the employees, right? Seek feedback on how well your message was received. So, in the process of communication, feedback is one of the important and essential factor. You will only understand the communication process is successful when you receive a feedback. If you don't receive a feedback, then you cannot understand like whether the receiver has understood your message or not, or is there any problem. You'll never understand without receiving feedback, so you always have to ask for feedback, right? Next, we always have to choose the right channel. Channel is also very important because through the channel only you can communicate what you're thinking, your thoughts and emotions, etc. So you always have to choose the right channel. The sensitivity and emotional content of the subject. So you have to choose channel according to the sensitivity of the subject and emotional content of the subject. How far the information is sensitive. Sometimes we have companies protocols that you should not share any information that is regulated. So you always have to see how sensitive and emotional the content of the subject is. And how easy is it to communicate details, that you all have to check. And the receiver's preferences. Receivers will have their preferences while receiving information. Sometimes client says that, see, I am flexible to receive emails. I would like to receive emails only, don't call or don't send any messages. Or sometimes your client says, please don't send any emails, I'll give you some time and then you can call and talk on whatever you want to say. So we have everybody have their preferences, you should always consider the receiver's preference. And we also have time constraints, like most of the businesses nowadays are outsourcing business. You have your headquarters in US and you're working from India, so you always have to see and give importance to time constraints also. The need to ask and answer questions, so you need to ask and you need to answer the question so that you'll understand whether the right channel is being used or not in the communication process. And also you'll understand whether the receiver has actually understood or not. Now, receiving and interpreting a message. If you are in the position of a receiver, now if you're receiving information from someone else, then how do you interpret them? That let's learn now. Look at the person. If you can look at the person, if the person is available there, you have to look at the person and then pay attention to his or her body language. Body language is really important. Say for example, the speaker or the source of information is standing in front of you or in the same meeting room, and then you're not paying attention, you're looking at just walls or here and there. The other person who is actually speaking will lose interest. you know the other person may think that, or the other person may understand that you're not actually interested in this session. So you always have to pay attention to the other person's body language. You always have to avoid distractions and nod and smile to acknowledge the points whatever is being discussed by the speaker. Occasionally think back about what the person has said and allow the person to speak without thinking about what you'll say next. That is very important. And never ever interrupt the other person when the person is speaking. Alright, so let's see feedback. Feedback helps you to assess the impact of your message. Like whatever you're going to speak or whatever you have already spoken, what impact it has made on the receiver. That you can always know only through feedback. Feedback can also be formal. If you're communicating something really important, it can often be worth asking questions to make sure that they have understood fully. Now let us see barriers to effective communication. Linguistic barriers. Linguistic barriers means language barriers. Psychological barriers. Psychological barriers means, see, I'll give you an example. You're giving a seminar, okay, in college, and then you are not confident enough. If you're not confident enough, that shows in your face itself. You cannot speak what you actually plan to speak if you're not confident enough. That is a psychological barrier. Emotional barrier. You're nervous, seeing many people in front of you. If you feel nervous, that will also affect your speech, right? Physical barriers. When you're speaking, suddenly the mic stops, you know, that can be a physical barrier. Cultural barriers. Your audiences may be from different cultures, maybe from different regions. So it's not necessary that whatever you are speaking being understood by them. And then organizational structure barriers. So every company will have their own structure. So that will also act as a barrier for communication. Attitude barriers. So it's not necessary that every person will have same attitude. Every person will see one situation or one condition in same ways, right? It's not possible. That can also be a barrier. Perception barriers. People perceive things in a different way. Nobody can think in a same way or perceive things in a same way. That can also be a barrier for communication. Technological barriers. The sender may be having advanced technology and the receiver may not have that advanced technology. So that can also be a technological barrier. Now let's see tips to overcome communication barriers. First one is communicate only what is needed. So you always have to talk or you always have to write what is needed. Don't write unnecessary information or don't try to put in unnecessary or unwanted information. Avoid your slang. Remain aware of cultural differences and stay open-minded for questions and answers. Choose a communication app. You have to choose a channel or communication app which can be useful for both the sender as well as receiver. All right. So now let's see what or how many types of communication we have. So, types of communication based on communication channel we have non-verbal and verbal. Based on style and purpose we have formal and informal. So now let's see, like when we talk about the communication media, we have verbal and non-verbal. Under verbal we have oral and written. So in oral we have speaking, listening. In written, we have writing and reading. So this is verbal communication. And when we talk about non-verbal communication, we have facial expressions, gestures, body language, proximity, touch, personal appearance, silence, etc. The power of pitch and tone. People will pick up on the pitch of your voice and react to it. A high pitch is often interpreted as anxious or upset. A low pitch sounds more serious and authoritative. So you have to try lowering your voice or pitch, and then you will have to smile. This will warm up anyone's voice. While speaking, when you start smiling and speaking, that itself will make you pleasant. And the other person who's actually listening to you will also become pleasant. Sitting up straight and listen, and monitoring your inner monologue. A negative thinking will seep into the tone of your voice. So when the person is speaking, if you are a receiver, when the other person is speaking, then you have to sit up and step straight and listen. That means, that gives an impression that you are actually concentrating on what the speaker is speaking about. And monitoring your inner monologue. Guys, this is very important. We may have our own mother tongue that will influence the speech, right? So, in case, for example, if your mother tongue is Telugu and you're speaking in English, if you think of speech in Telugu in your mind and speak out in English, that will affect your speech, guys. So, you'll always have to think in English, speak in English. So, you'll always have to think in one language and speak out the same language. You'll have to monitor your inner monologue and never think something negative, that will actually show up in your tone of your voice. That is the importance of the power of pitch and now let's see the strength of speed. So, speed can actually affect your communication process, your listener's level of interest. See, if you're speaking with a great speed, then probably the other person will lose interest, will not actually understand anything you're speaking about. So, it's always very important for you to control the rate of speech. The comprehensibility of your message, your tone and pitch. Tips I can give you all is try speaking slowly and clearly. Smile, this will help you keep calm and monitoring your speaking speed. Nervousness will actually impact to you like no strength of the speed. If you're feeling very nervous, that will affect your speech. So never feel nervous while you're speaking something. Now let's see written communication. So I hope you all understood the important topics on oral communication. Now, written communication is also very important. In all the organizations, written communication plays a very important role. Like you always send emails, right? So, while writing emails, you should be very careful. While writing any communication, on communication channels, also, you may have your internal communication channels, right? So, while writing in those channels, also, you should be very careful. So, You always have to write current sentences and paragraphs. You have to keep it simple and use short sentences. It should be specific and omit redundant words. Keep it simple and use active voice. Avoid jargon, idioms, acronyms, and cultural references. Structure the writing and use proper punctuations. Put important things first and be factual. Being factual means you always have to write facts. Avoid strong claims and hype in your communication. Now let's see non-verbal communication. 55% of communication is all about non-verbal communication, like your body movements, face, arms, etc. 7% will be your words, and 38% will be voice, tone, modulation, and the pauses you have while communicating. So, what comes under non-verbal communication? Your eyes, face, body, your posture, your gesture, your touch, your space, your clothing, cosmetics you use, accessories and jewelry you use, everything comes under non-verbal communication. So while actually when you are speaking or when you are listening, you always have to be very careful with your posture, your body language, your body movements, and your voice tone, your modulations, etc. Now, I'm going to give you a few tips which will really improve your communication skills, and it's very easy to follow these tips at your home itself. So, the first step is listen. Listening will help you to structure yourself and the content you wish to deliver. Watch English movies and videos without subtitles. Plug in headphones or earphones for better audio quality. By doing this, you'll actually improve your listening skills as well, and you also can improve your English and also the better understanding of the language. Remember, everybody learns their mother tongue by listening, so it is not at all difficult to learn language if you continuously listen. And the next step is speak. Speak more. Speak whenever you get an opportunity. Even that is in broken sentences, don't worry. Try to speak more and more because we know the saying, after all, practice makes man perfect. So, after watching any English videos or movies, pick up your favorite dialogues or scenes, stand in front of mirror and practice speaking. By doing this, you'll gain confidence and you'll slowly notice changes in the way you speak. Also, you self correct yourself, and that's one of the sign of success. And the third tip is read. Read more. Read as much as possible. This will help you in improving your vocabulary and will also help you in developing the content. Read whatever you like. It can be sports, education, and entertainment, etc. Go ahead, pick up a book or novel or magazine and start reading regularly. And the fourth tip is observe and interpret body language. Believe it or not, communication is more of non-verbal than verbal. Try and observe good speakers. Try to imitate certain catchy gestures they use while speaking, because not only words we use are important, but also the gesture, body language are really very important. So, finally, these are the four things you must practice daily. If you work hard on these tips and practice as much as you can, I can assure you all that you can improve your communication skills very fast. Well, this brings us to the end of the session today, and I hope you really enjoyed learning effective communication skills and tips for improving your communication skills. Thank you for watching us. We shall come back with more interesting topics and content to improve your communication skills. And hey, please do not forget to like and subscribe our channel.